Hello and welcome back to Blackwatch Intel. My name is Crashy, and today we're going to be talking about what I feel might be the biggest issue with Overwatch right now. Now that said, I have to put the disclaimer on this, or the preface to this thought, by saying I think I might be having the worst season I've ever had, and I am a super emotional person. I am super passionate about my rank and just improving and being better. And the thing is that this whole game is just so janky and like broken feeling to me lately. But I don't want to sit here and rant and talk about how I feel there's a huge luck factor. I don't want to sit here and talk about how, the difference between, for me, Masters, being in Masters and playing in Diamond doesn't feel different at all. I don't want to rant. I don't want to go on those points. What I do want to say is that I feel like the biggest issue facing the solo queue, duo queue-ish competitive play, not where people are queuing up as full teams, which doesn't really happen that much, but I think the biggest issue with the most normal type of queuing on the competitive ladder is the matchmaking in terms of balance per team, per role. Now, this always will cycle back into role queue, preferred role queue, and how do we make the game more balanced? And I don't mean balanced in terms of hero strength, I mean balanced in terms of not having overlap in the teams. And the more and more I think about it, there has to be something that Blizzard can do to improve the quality of these games by allowing people the chance to have more balanced teams. Now, like I said, we can go on and on and on about role queue and things like that, but I want to break it down to the most bare bones, easiest way to do it kind of idea. And this has been talked about before. This has been talked about on this channel, on thousands of channels, but I want to reiterate on it because I'm feeling this lack of development every single match now, and it's getting frustrating, not for me, but for everybody in these games. We want better quality matches, and there's what I think is a really simple way to do it. So again, let's talk about preferred role queue. This system changes nothing in the way that I'm thinking about it, the way that I think most people would think about it. It is the same exact version of queuing now. The only difference is it models itself after the 2-2-2 meta. Now here's the thing. Don't freak out and type in the comment section and rage at me about forcing a meta. It's modeled after the 2-2-2 meta, which I would say the developers, the pro scene, and about 90% of the community would understandably use as a template for building team comps and for maybe even explaining the game in a lot of situations where maybe you're talking to a friend that doesn't know it, or someone that's, checking out the Overwatch League for the first time. So let's think about that. It's the stencil, it's the template, it's what you most can refer to without having to get in depth. We can start talking to my friend, like I could talk to my friend right now and say, hey man, this is how you build the team comps. You go 2-2-2. It's really balanced. It, covers all your bases. Or I could do the long talk and be like, well, you could do 3 DPS dive, and the reason you do this is because it's a lot of damage, and then I have to go through that whole explanation. So it's the template, it's the stencil, it's the easy way to explain it, and it makes the most sense very quickly. That said, the game shouldn't always be played that way. Even on ladder, the game shouldn't always be played that way. And so some of my ideas for role queue, some of the harsh ideas for role queue, I can understand why that shouldn't work, or why it doesn't work, and why it shouldn't be implemented. But preferred role queue is a simple system where you queue for a role, and you have the option to queue between 3 different roles: support, damage, and tank. And when you go into a game, it should assign you one of those. So if you only queued for support, you're assigned support. You wait whatever queue time that comes along with it. And with this discussion, understand that I don't care about queue times. I don't care if the queue times go up. I don't care if they go down. I don't care if they go left, they go right. I don't care. I just want to think about how to make the game better. So if you queue for support, you wait the support queue, and then you get into a game and you get the support icon below your name when you're in the role select or in the hero select. If you queue for multiple roles, say all 3 of them, when you go into a game, the game should assign you one of them, because what you're essentially telling the game when you queue for all 3 is that you're willing to play all 3. So let's say I go into a game, I select all 3 roles, it gives me tank, it gives me a tank icon. When you're in the game should allow you to pick any hero in the entire roster, but it gives the team a template a starting point, an easy access to information about you as a player very quickly, and can start the dialogue amongst the team about what y'all should play. So if a team starts out and, they want to do some, some trolly stuff, kind of like, things that have been done in the Overwatch League and stuff that I do with, my local friends, where we run the 4 or 5 tanks with Lucio and maybe Moira, that can still be done. You can still coordinate those same things. So the same exact way that you play the game on live now would be the same exact way you play it with this newer system. The only difference is you get an icon that gives your team a little bit more context on you as a player. It gives your team the understanding of what you would like to play, most likely, what you're most willing to play, and it just furthers the trust. It furthers the ability to build a comp that makes the most sense. I think if nothing big happens with matchmaking, this change has to happen. I think you don't have a choice anymore, Blizzard. I think you're running out of time. I think you're hurting the game. I think you're simply hurting the game by not implementing the most bare bones version of selecting our role. It doesn't have to change the game. If we decide that, say my DPS player is like, hey dude, I'm having an off night. I know I queued as DPS, but someone swap with me. We can do that. We can do it. And all it does is puts an icon next to your name that gives your team somewhat of an explanation of what you're willing to play. And, I think that's great. I think that would be great. Now, you're always going to get into that section about, what about abuse, people support, queuing as support and then playing DPS anyways. I simply put, I think the easiest way to deal with that is that should be built in and understood as a form of griefing, where they don't even try. You know what I mean? Say someone queues in the support role, they come in, they auto lock, Genji. Sure, I think that should be reportable. So maybe with a system like this, you would have to expand on the kind of understanding of what is and isn't acceptable with the newer system. And it's really not that different, at least we would have some kind of structure, because currently you can't blame anyone for picking anything in any scenario. You can't. One tricking's allowed, sure, cool. Playing whatever hero you want is allowed, sure, cool. Pretty much playing whatever hero you want, even if it's not something your team needs, as long as you're not actively throwing, is allowed. And that hurts the game, so maybe if we had a role queue, preferred role queue, where we have an understanding of what you want to play and you're abusing that, then that can be bannable. So let's start, like I'm talking to Blizzard when I say this, let's start making the game better. Let's start weeding out, the bad eggs, the bad apples. Let's start making people accountable for coming into games or taking advantage of the system. And ultimately, I think with this type of thought, this type of system, the good would outweigh the bad. I think more often than not, you would find yourself in a game where the people that queued for a certain role are more willing to play that role, and there's a lot less overlap, and I think it would be a great system. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Obviously, I didn't really queue this video up as, let's talk about preferred role again. I really wanted to say that I think this is the biggest issue with ladder currently. Obviously there's lots of issues. There's, matchmaking issues, like I've outlined. There are, hero issues, balance issues. There's lots of stuff going on. There's a lot of moving parts, but this one I think would really help. It would be the greatest first step to really making the competitive ladder much better. If nothing else, it helps the mentality across the board. Everybody would know what can happen in a game. And you don't even have to build it 2-2-2. You know what I mean? You can go in the game, y'all can solo tank if you think it's best. Just communicate, work together. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. I appreciate you for checking out this video. Please don't leaving a like and subscribe for future content. I appreciate it again, and I'll see you on the next video.
Do you feel your bones start to shake? Do you feel the earthquake? Do you feel the fire inside of me? Do you see the sparks that I'm setting free? Does the beat take you over? You just